Cardi B is done with Stefon Diggs, and she has now said why. In her own words, on the record, with receipts. This is not a rumor roundup. This is the full story, from the beginning of the relationship to the moment she walked away, told in the exact order it actually happened. And before you say you already saw the TikToks, you didn't see this part. The clips going around are about the Instagram unfollow and the Super Bowl. What nobody is covering is what Cardi said on a podcast in October 2025, months before any of this became public, where she described hitting the lowest point of her life in language that will genuinely stop you. And if you think this is another they'll be back together next week situation, she went on Twitter Spaces 3 days ago and shut that down herself.
We're working from page 6, People, a sourced timeline that starts in October 2024 and runs through last week, and Cardi's own words, including a quote where she says about the depression that hit her during her divorce from Offset. I fell in the deepest depression that I had ever had, and with that depression, I couldn't function. That quote from her mouth on a recorded podcast. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly what Cardi walked away from with Diggs and why, what the connection is between the Offset era and this relationship, and what she said just days ago that tells you everything about where her head is now. That last part is the piece most people are missing. Let's get into it.
If you clicked this video because you saw the TikTok about the unfollow and you need the full breakdown in one place, tap the like button right now, because I spent 3 days building this timeline, and if you leave without liking it, my situationship is going to find out I canceled our plans for a YouTube video about Cardi B, and I will have nothing to show for it.
Before the relationship drama, the foundation. Her real name is Belcalis Marlenus Almanzar. Born October 11th, 1992 in the Bronx, New York, to a Trinidadian mother and a Dominican father. The stage name came from the rum Bacardi. Her younger sister was named Hennessy after the cognac, so the family called her Bacardi to match, and that eventually became Cardi B.
Money was never part of her upbringing. Renaissance High School for Musical Theater and Technology was where she studied in New York, and after graduating, college proved impossible to balance with a low-paying deli job. At 19, she started working as a stripper to earn money quickly and escape an abusive relationship, and she has never once tried to hide or soften that part of her story. It is, in her view, part of who she became.
Social media came next, and she built a following purely by being unfiltered and unapologetic, which led to a spot on Love and Hip Hop New York starting in 2015. 2 seasons on that show, and then a deliberate exit in 2017 to focus entirely on music. What happened after that exit is genuinely historic. Atlantic Records signed her in 2017, and her very first release, Bodak Yellow, landed with the kind of force that stops an industry in its tracks. The New York Times called it the rap anthem of the summer, and it reached #1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the Hot R&B hip-hop charts. She became the first woman to land her first 3 releases simultaneously in the top 10 on the Hot 100. And in 2019, the Grammy for Best Rap Album for Invasion of Privacy made her the first solo female rapper in history to win that award. WAP with Megan Thee Stallion broke records in 2020 with 93 million US streams in a single opening week, and her catalog now includes 5 #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100. Invasion of Privacy sits at 4 times platinum certification, with more than 4 million units sold. She built all of that from nothing, while the entire internet watched her personal life come apart in real time.
Only female rapper in history to open both of her first 2 albums at #1. Triple platinum, $70 million on tour. And she built all of that while her personal life was actively collapsing. Don't subscribe. Genuinely, don't do it. Stay on TikTok getting 30-second clips with no context. Let your group chat find out Cardi's next move before you. Be the last person to know when the Offset divorce gets messy again. I dare you.
Understanding where Cardi is right now requires understanding Offset, because that relationship was not just a celebrity couple story. It was a 10-year saga of love and betrayal and reconciliation and public explosions that ultimately left her in the worst depression she had ever known.
Offset's real name is Kiari Kendrell Cephas, a rapper and member of the group Migos, and they started dating in 2017. The marriage happened secretly on September 20th, 2017 in Atlanta, and the public proposal came later that October at a concert in Philadelphia. Rolling Stone caught him describing Cardi at the time. "She is real solid, came from where I came from, did what I did. I seen who developed from the trenches all the way up, and I like how she did it. I respect her grind as a woman."
3 children came from the marriage. Culture Kiari Cephas arrived on July 10th, 2018. Waveset Cephas followed on September 4th, 2021. Blossom Bell Cephas was born on September 7th, 2024. None of that smoothed the relationship's edges, though, because Offset's infidelity dated all the way back to 2017, which is to say it started almost immediately. They separated in December 2018, reconciled in 2019, and in September 2020, Cardi filed for divorce, only to call it off the following month.
They stayed together until sometime in 2023, and that December, Cardi confirmed on Instagram that she had been single for a minute. Even after that, they continued appearing together on occasion, which, in retrospect, reads as two people who had not fully let go. The final filing came in July 2024, and she announced the 3rd pregnancy the exact same day. Pregnant, filing for divorce from the father of that child, all on the same afternoon.
Blossom arrived in September 2024 while the proceedings were still ongoing, and in an Instagram post that same month, Cardi addressed Offset directly. "I've always been too good for you. I regret you. I don't regret my kids. You're a good daddy. You're all right." Anger and grief and clarity and love for her children all compressed into a few sentences posted for millions of people to read. What came out later in a conversation that aired in October 2025 is that behind those words was a collapse she had never publicly described before.
Jay Shetty's On Purpose podcast published the conversation on October 6th, 2025, and what Cardi said in that interview represents the most unguarded she has ever been about her mental health. She told him that in 2024, she had been working toward releasing her sophomore album, building toward it, and then everything stopped. Her words were, "I fell in the deepest depression that I had ever had, and with that depression, I couldn't function."
Quick pause, because if you just heard Cardi B, one of the most successful artists alive, say she fell into the deepest depression of her life and literally could not function, and your first instinct was to text your best friend that quote immediately, that's how I know you are exactly who this channel is for. Subscribe right now, because the breakdown of what pulled her out of that depression and how it connects directly to why she walked away from Diggs is coming in the next few minutes, and I need you to still be here for it. This is the part the other videos skipped entirely. Stay.
2 things were hitting her at the same time, she explained. The marriage ending and the weight of being a public figure while her private life was disintegrating around her. On the marriage, she told Jay Shetty, "I felt the love dying from my end. From his end, I was very lonely because I chose to be lonely. I was saying like, you know what? I can't go through this anymore. I have to put a stop to it. But when I said I was going to put a stop to it, because you can say you're going to put a stop to it, and you could go a month without being around somebody, but it's not when you say so. It's when your heart says so."
Being pregnant during all of that made it worse in a specific way she had not expected. While it was dying, I had a human growing in me, and I just kept thinking, what's life gonna be without this person? What's life gonna be like raising my last child without this person? What's life gonna be with that person not being my friend anymore? When you have those types of thoughts, it will make you sad. It will get you depressed. It will have you lost. But I overcame that.
None of that was happening in isolation either. Publicly, she described being attacked from 3 directions at once. I was dealing with fans putting pressure on me because they want an album, they want products from me. I had people that don't like me talking down on me. And then I had peers trying to start problems with me. And all of that while I was going through a mental breakdown at home. So it was just a lot.
Therapy was something she tried. Her exact words on that were, I did a couple of sessions. They gave me nothing. Recording through the spring and summer, that was something she tried too, and it still was not enough. She said she had to let things die on their own timeline, wait for her heart to catch up with her mind, sit inside the uncertainty until it passed. This was not the first time Cardi had dealt with serious mental health struggles. Back in 2019, after Culture was born, she spoke publicly about postpartum depression, describing it this way: "I thought I was going to avoid it, but out of nowhere, the world was heavy on my shoulders." She recovered through her mother's support and time off the road. Earlier, in a separate interview, she had spoken about suicidal thoughts, saying, "I felt like I was so weak of a person, that I was too weak to be a mom."
What the Jay Shetty conversation represents, though, is Cardi coming out the other side and being ready to name what happened, not as a crisis still unfolding, but as something she lived through and survived. She noted that by October 2025, she had not felt the way she felt at her lowest point in almost a year, which means the recovery started well before the album came out and before the tour began. Her faith and connection with God, she told Shetty, formed the foundation that held her together through the worst of it.
The album she could not release in 2024 because of that depression came out in September 2025. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200. It earned the biggest sales week for an R&B hip-hop album by any woman that entire year. She became the only female rapper in history to have both of her first two albums open at #1. Am I the Drama reached triple platinum certification and became the highest certified female rap album of the 2020s, surpassing The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill from 1998. The depression did not defeat her, it delayed her, and then she came back bigger than she had ever been.
Right in the middle of that personal rebuild, a new relationship entered the picture. And this is where the story becomes considerably more layered. Stefon Diggs was born November 29, 1993, a wide receiver who signed a 3-year, $63.5 million contract with the New England Patriots in March 2025, after a career that moved him through the Minnesota Vikings, the Buffalo Bills, and the Houston Texans. His best statistical season came in 2020 with the Bills, when he led the entire NFL with 127 receptions and 1,535 receiving yards, numbers that earned him first-team All-Pro and a Pro Bowl selection. A torn ACL cut his 2024 season with the Texans short, and that injury was still in the rearview mirror when he signed with New England and when Cardi entered his world. Rumors of a romantic connection between them surfaced in October 2024, and the timing of that is worth sitting with for a moment, because October 2024 is just 3 months after Cardi filed her second divorce from Offset. She had barely stepped out of that marriage before a new chapter was being linked to her name. February 2025 brought photographs of them arriving together at a Miami hotel. April had sightings at Coachella, and May brought their first official public appearance at a New York Knicks playoff game. Then on June 1st, 2025, Cardi made it Instagram official. The following September, appearing on CBS Mornings with Gayle King, she confirmed she was pregnant with her 4th child, her first with Diggs. Their son Brim arrived in November 2025.
That is a compressed timeline by any measure. Divorce finalized, new relationship, pregnancy confirmed, baby born, all within roughly 16 months. And running alongside the relationship's public moments were warning signs that, looking back, pointed toward exactly what happened next. In May 2025, right around their first public appearances together, a video of Diggs on a yacht with women and holding a pink substance surfaced online and prompted the Patriots to announce an investigation. Later that year, a situation involving paternity and other children drew attention. Diggs spent Christmas with children from previous relationships, which became public. An assault case filed by his former private chef resulted in charges of felony strangulation and misdemeanor assault and battery, for which he pleaded not guilty. The trial ended with a not guilty verdict, but the case had played out publicly while the relationship was ongoing.
The first signal came through Instagram, as it almost always does now, when fans noticed that Cardi and Diggs appeared to have unfollowed each other in early February 2026. An unfollow in celebrity culture carries the weight of a press release, and this one landed accordingly. Super Bowl LX followed shortly after, the Patriots playing the Seattle Seahawks and losing 13-29, Diggs catching 3 passes for 37 yards, and the couple appearing separately. According to Page 6, the split had actually occurred a few days before the game, with sources describing Diggs as having allegedly betrayed Cardi multiple times.
People obtained a separate account from someone close to the situation. Things were getting too heated and complicated. Cardi is very no-nonsense. The second she felt that she couldn't trust him, she pulled back to focus on her kids, her music, and tour. Another source put it more simply. She needs stability and wants the same for her kids. Cardi confirmed the status herself during a stop on the Little Miss Drama Tour in Los Angeles, and she did it the way Cardi always does things, directly, briefly, and on her own terms. From the stage, responding to a shot that rapper Bia had apparently taken at Diggs, "Just because I ain't fucking with my baby daddy doesn't mean you get to talk about my baby daddy. This one's for you, bitch." Even while ending the relationship publicly, she made clear that outsiders piling on the father of her child was not something she would allow. She told the crowd she was no longer involved with Diggs. Statement delivered. No extended explanation, no visible tears, no lengthy post about her feelings.
When TMZ caught Diggs and asked about the relationship, his answer revealed exactly nothing. "That's a beautiful, talented mother, and I love her to death. You have to ask her." Page 6 reported that Cardi's mood in the aftermath was one of relief, with her attention turned fully to the music and the tour. Page 6 said Cardi felt relief after the split. Relief after everything. Cardi B can feel when y'all don't like the video, by the way. She's at home with baby Brim right now, and she knows. She did the whole breakdown on Spaces 3 days ago. She survived the deepest depression of her life. She grossed $70 million on tour, and the one thing that could still hurt her is you not tapping the like button on the video that finally gave.
A clean breakup narrative is not what actually followed, and that matters to the full story. Even after the split went public, Cardi and Diggs were spotted together backstage during the Little Miss Drama Tour, Diggs holding baby Brim while Cardi's team prepared her for a show, both of them present in the same space and visibly comfortable enough to be photographed. That image circulated widely, and reconciliation speculation followed immediately. A source told People they co-parent and the door is not completely closed. They might reconnect in the future. A separate moment added to the ambiguity. Asked to send an inspiring message to Diggs ahead of a game, Cardi reportedly responded with "good luck" and walked away. Brief, pointed, and telling enough that People read it as a full statement. Then, on June 20th, 2026, just days before this video, Cardi hosted a session on Twitter/X Spaces, and what she said there amounted to the clearest statement she has made. She went after a blogger she described as obsessed with her personal life, and in the middle of that, she stated her position on the Diggs situation and announced something that signals a real shift in how she intends to live going forward. Her next relationship, she said, will be kept completely private. No Instagram confirmation, no public hard launch, no announcements. Whatever comes next for Cardi B romantically will happen away from the cameras and the comment sections and the blogs. Reading that as confirmation the Diggs chapter is closed is the obvious interpretation. But there is also something larger happening in that statement. The Offset relationship unfolded in front of millions of people for nearly a decade. The breakups, the reconciliations, the social media exchanges, the divorce filings. The Diggs relationship followed the exact same pattern. From the hard launch, through the pregnancy announcement, through the Instagram unfollow signals. Cardi is drawing a line and saying out loud and publicly, that pattern ends now. Running parallel to all of this relationship drama was the biggest album campaign of her career, and the album itself is woven into the story in ways that are hard to separate. Am I the Drama came out September 19th, 2025, 7 years after Invasion of Privacy, recorded over a 6-year period, named after what she described as the amount of real-life drama she had been experiencing, with additional inspiration drawn from a quote within the RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars community.
On its first week, 200,000 album equivalent units pushed it to number 1 on the Billboard 200, making Cardi the only female rapper in history to open both of her first 2 albums at the top of that chart. That first week included 88,000 pure sales and 145.72 million on-demand streams alone.
Triple platinum certification from the RIAA followed, making it the highest certified female rap album of the 2020s and the fastest to reach that milestone, a record that had belonged to the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill since 1998. Outstanding Album at the NAACP Image Awards and Best Hip Hop Album at the American Music Awards came in 2026. Rob Sheffield of Rolling Stone described it as a massive comeback triumph and a fittingly grand return for a queen who never left the throne. The lead single Outside reached number 10 on the Hot 100, her 13th top 10 entry, and marked the first top 10 debut by a female rapper since her own 2024 single.
The Little Miss Drama tour that followed grossed $70 million across 35 dates and drew 453,000 people, with Cardi becoming the first female rapper to sell out 2 consecutive nights at the Kia Forum in Los Angeles. The opening night in Palm Desert on February 11, 2026, ran nearly 2 hours with a 37-song set backed by more than a dozen dancers, pyrotechnics, and a floating platform stage that critics described as a fully realized theatrical production. She headlined Madison Square Garden. She performed through a breakup, handled the public fallout from the stage, and delivered the whole thing in her first headline tour in 6 years. Back to the Shetty conversation, because what Cardi describes there goes beyond vulnerability. It is actually a map of how someone moves from a breakdown to a completely different place. Self-doubt was part of it, alongside the depression, she explained, a feeling of being misunderstood and a real sense of hurt when people suggested she had not earned what she built. Career pressure came from fans demanding new music, from peers manufacturing drama, from critics who talked down about her. Underneath all of it sat the grief of a marriage that was ending and the fear of what her life would look like on the other side. She tried therapy, felt nothing from it, pushed through work and recording, and still found it was not enough.
What she said she had to do was let things die on their own timeline. She had to sit inside the uncertainty. She had to wait for her heart to reach the same conclusion her mind had already made months earlier. Faith and her connection with God, she told Shetty, formed the foundation that carried her through the period when nothing else was working. By the time that conversation aired in October 2025, she reported that she had not felt the way she felt at her lowest point in close to a year, which places her recovery well before the album dropped and before the tour began. She also spoke about her children as the core of her mission, about a determination to break cycles she grew up inside, about the fact that she had planned every step of her rise with real intention. That is not a portrait of someone who got lucky. It is a portrait of someone who held onto a vision for her own life, even during the months when she could not function well enough to finish the album that was supposed to prove it.
As of June 2026, Cardi B is a mother of 4: Culture, Wave, and Blossom with Offset, and Brim with Stefon Diggs. The divorce from Offset remains ongoing. She and Diggs are co-parenting after a split, with sources describing a situation where the door is not fully closed, but is not open either. Diggs was released by the New England Patriots on March 11, 2026, after 1 season, and currently sits in free agency with his NFL future unresolved. The assault trial against him ended with a not guilty verdict, and his relationship with Cardi, at least publicly, appears to be a co-parenting arrangement that neither of them is defining further. The Little Miss Drama tour wrapped in April 2026. Am I the Drama is triple platinum. And the woman who said she could not function in 2024 just completed the most commercially and critically successful run of her entire career.
The divorce from Offset is still ongoing. Still! No settlement, no closed chapter, nothing final. Which means there is another video coming the second that filing moves. And if you are not subscribed, you will find out about it in someone else's comment section 3 days late, like a civilian. Subscribe now, because if this channel doesn't get the notification boost from new subscribers before the Offset divorce update drops, I'm putting Kris Jenner's PR team in charge of the next script, and y'all will be watching a sponsored segment about waist trainers instead of getting the receipts. Tap it.
The Cardi B and Stefon Diggs breakup is one story. The larger story belongs to a woman who spent a decade inside a turbulent public relationship, came out of it at the lowest point she had ever reached, could not finish the album she had been building toward, and then, instead of going quiet or collapsing, sat inside the grief long enough for her heart to catch up, let things die on their own timeline, and came back to release an album that broke records held since 1998. She did all of that as a mother of four, while filing for divorce, while starting a new relationship that also ended publicly, while being criticized from every direction, and while trying therapy that gave her nothing, and recording sessions that were not enough. Through all of it, she never performed wellness she did not have.
What is different now, and this might be the thing that matters most, is that Cardi B is setting her own terms. She is deciding what she shares and what stays private. The woman who could not function in 2024 is the same woman who grossed $70 million on a sold-out arena tour, broke records that go back to Lauryn Hill, and told everyone listening that her next relationship belongs to her. That is not someone still finding her footing. That is someone who has already figured out exactly what she is worth and stopped letting the internet negotiate it down.